Dad's Stick is a film that I made quite recently, and it revolves around three objects that my father showed me shortly before he died. And my dad actually died 5 years ago now. And when he died, I kind of, like most people, I kind of realised that he'd been quite an important part of my life, although I wasn't that close to my parents. And I knew I wanted to make a piece of work, but I thought, well, where do I begin with this? You know, you have so many years of history with your parents and so many different things that happened. But last year I had the opportunity to make a commissioned film very quickly. And I was asked to make a film within a period of a month, which I usually spend a really long time making work, planning things. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do in a month? And then I remembered these objects, and so I decided to make this film. Basically, the film revolves around one particular object, which is a stick that my father used for stirring paint when he decorated our house, or his house, throughout his life. And yeah, a little while before he died, he said to me, John, I'd like to show you something. I said, okay, what's this? You know, and he said, I thought you might be interested in this. And he'd taken this stick and he'd sawn the end off of the stick. So, and he showed it to me, and when I looked at the end of the stick, I could see so many layers of different colours of paint. And it was an extraordinary thing because it immediately reminded me of a tree, the way in which when we cut a tree down, we see all of those years of history. But this was a history of a man's life, and a history of a man's life in doing a particular activity. He had always painted his own house. And what was really amazing to me was when I looked about halfway back through the stick, I saw this orange tangerine colour. Sorry, very bright orange colour, and I thought, this is the colour of the hallway in the house I lived in with my parents in the mid-1960s. So I was looking back nearly 50 years, and it wasn't even the middle of the stick. So I thought, this stick must go back maybe, I mean, it looked like maybe it went back another 30 years proportionately. So then I thought, well, maybe it was his father's stick before that. Maybe he gave this to him. Anyway, so it just seemed an amazing metaphor for condensing time within a period, within a short period, within a single image. And I ended up making a film which initially gives the impression, it uses a very, very extreme close-up image to begin with, so you're just looking at the layers of paint. And the image at first appears to be perhaps an abstract painting. It's completely unrecognizable as a representational object. And through a mixture of images of still objects and voice-over caption, a narrative eventually emerges. There are three objects in the film, not just this stick. Another is a cup that he used for mixing paint in that has, again, so many layers of paint, although it looks mainly white on the outside. This little teacup has a wall which is about this thick, so there's only a tiny little indentation left. And when I decided to make the film, I thought I might smash the cup. And in the end, I thought, no, that's a really violent thing to do. And also, why do we have to see what we could imagine? And so I felt that actually revealing in one object and suggesting in another object was an important thing. But one thing about the film is that it's completely composed of images of static objects. So there's no movement in the film at all. But there is a kind of movement in the soundtrack, and the soundtrack is a mixture of little combinations of fragments of singing, because my father used to sing a lot, and also sounds associated with the objects, like the sound of stirring tea in a teacup, for example. And I was really interested in a way of somehow reanimating these objects which didn't have a function anymore, or probably wouldn't get used again anymore. But in a sense, through sound, you can bring those objects back to life and kind of suggest their past history. The teacup, incidentally, I remembered from my grandparents' house when I was a child, and it was like their best teacups with these like thin china, pink teacups. So it was very strange to see this relegated to an object which was kind of, the handle was broken off and it was covered with paint, and I guess it was quite poignant to me that, not least because everybody's life eventually ends up in the dump. And after my father died, I remember kind of feeling strange about actually throwing away so many of his possessions, because there was nothing else one could do with them.